Welcome back to another class on the treasures of mishnayot. We are in mishnayot of Berachot, Perek Vav, Mishna Bet. This will be part 2 of the shiur. In the previous class, we started speaking about that if a person went ahead and he blessed the wrong blessing, for example, he said Borei Pri Ha'adama on the fruit of the tree, we said he fulfills his obligation. The reason being is because the tree gets its nutrient from the ground. Today we want to see what happens if a person went ahead and he blessed Borei Pri Ha'etz on the fruits of the ground, or even on vegetables. We'll see he does not fulfill his obligation. The Mishnah continues, Va'al pirot ha'aretz, and on the fruits of the ground, Borei Pri Ha'etz. If a person went ahead and he blessed Borei Pri Ha'etz, so the Kati explains, Aval im ta'a uberech al pirot ha'adama. If a person made a mistake and he blessed on the fruits of the ground, Borei Pri Ha'etz, lo yatsa yedei chovoto. You do not fulfill your obligation. Shepirot adama enam beklal piri ha'etz, because the fruits of the ground are not included in the rule of the fruits of the tree. So therefore, one more time, if a person went ahead and he blessed Borei Pri Ha'etz on the fruits of the ground, lo yatsa. But if a person blessed Borei Pri Adama on the fruits of the tree, yatsa. Now we're moving on to the next section in the Mishnah. Al kulam. Al kulam al kol eila sheshaninu b'Mishnah Aleph. On all of these that it was taught in the first Mishnah, which was what? Al pirot ha'elan, on the fruits of the tree. V'al pirot ha'aretz, on the fruits of the ground. V'al yirakot, on the vegetables. V'afil al yain v'al pat, even on the wine and even on bread. Im amar shehakol niye b'dvara. If you went ahead and you said shehakol niye b'dvara, so the Kati explains, Im ta'a, if you made a mistake, uberech alahem shehakol niye b'dvara, and you blessed on them shehakol niye b'dvara, yatsa yodei chovato bidei avad. You fulfill your obligation post fact. If it already happened, we'll tell you you're fine. So Rabotai, listen to this halakha, very important halakha. If by mistake, let me read the next line so people know it. But initially, tzarich levarech al kol davar birkato hamiyuchedet lo. But initially, we want you to bless for every single item that you're going to eat, its original blessing. So therefore, let's just come back over here. When he says over here, al kulam, if he says shehakol niye b'dvara yatsa, it's going on apples, cherries, cucumbers, squash, lettuce, tomatoes, on everything, even on wine, even on bread, and even on mishnayot. That's he says al kulam. So it comes out like this: on the fruits of the tree, on the fruits of the ground, on the vegetables, on wine, on bread, and on mishnayot stuff. If you said by accident shehakol niye b'dvara, we're going to tell you yatsa. Post facto, we'll say you're good, and you don't have to go back and repeat it. So let's just see these 3 rules before we continue. Because Rabotai, up to here is the Mishnah. That's it. From here and on, it's all a machloket amongst the rabbis. We'll see if you change the text of the blessing, if you're yotz or not, and so on and so forth. So let's just go, first let's review what we learned up to now. If a person said on the fruits of the tree, Borei Pri Adama, yatsa, he's good, he doesn't have to repeat. If a person said Borei Pri Ha'etz on the fruits of the ground or on vegetables, lo yatsa, no good, he has to repeat the blessing again. He's going to have to go back and say Borei Pri Ha'adama again. However, if he went ahead and he said on the fruits of the tree, the fruits of the ground, on vegetables, on wine, on bread, and on pastries, if you said by accident shehakol niye b'dvara, we're going to tell you yatsa, you're good, and you don't have to go back and you don't have to repeat the blessing. Okay, over here we finished the Mishnah. Now the Kati is going to go ahead and explain that there's a machloket between Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Meir, and how they want to learn our Mishnah also. So let's start with Rabbi Yossi. B'Yerushalmi muva, and the Yerushalmi is brought down. So now, I don't know how many of you guys know that we have a Talmud Bavli, and at the same time we have a Talmud Yerushalmi. Let me see if I could get it for you. Just give me 1 second. Rather use a Talmud Yerushalmi and you have Talmud Bavli. I just want to show you that there's a very big difference so people have an idea. Right? A lot of times, what do people learn? Majority of the people, what do they learn? They learn the Talmud Bavli. Here, let's do this first. They learn Talmud Bavli. This is Talmud Bavli. See, it says Talmud Bavli. Okay? Over here, a few people learn Talmud Yerushalmi. Okay, what is the difference between? It's also different, but again, they're on topic, but one was written in Babel and the other one is from Yerushalayim. So why am I telling you? Because that's what he's telling us over here. Yerushalmi Muvah is brought down in the Talmud Yerushalmi. Rabbi Yossi cholek al mishnatenu v'sover. Rabbi Yossi, he argues on our Mishnah, what we just learned up to now, and he holds כל המשנה ממטבע שתאבו חכמים בברכות לא יצא ידי חובתו. Anyone that goes ahead and he changes from the text that the rabbis have instituted for their original blessing, if you changed that bracha, what the rabbis have instituted for it to be said, lo yatsa yedei chovato, you don't fulfill your obligation. What does that mean? Let me try to explain to you. It's a very important concept. Rabbi Yossi cholek al mishnatenu. Rabbi Yossi argues on our Mishnah, and he says, once you change the text of the blessing, lo yatsa, you don't fulfill your obligation. What do you mean I changed the text of my blessing? What does that mean? Let's say, okay, Rabbota, I'm going to erase this. Let me just show you something. Since we don't need this already, I'm going to erase it. I want to just show you something. According to Rabbi Yossi, the Chachamim have instituted that when you're eating an apple, the blessing is, okay, 1 second, guys, 1 second. The blessing is going to be Borei Peri Ha'etz, okay? That is the blessing. Now, what happens if a person wants to eat a melon, for example? Right, what bracha is going to be a melon? The bracha of a melon is going to be Borei Peri Ha'adama. Right? What about wine? Right? It's going to be, well, that's too big of a nun sufit. What about wine? It's going to be Borei Pri Hagefen. Now, Rabotai, and so on and so forth. Same thing by bread. It's going to be Hamotzach min haaretz, and it's going to be by pastries, Borei minei mizanot. Why am I telling you this? Comes Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says like this. Listen to this carefully. What did we say in the Mishnah? That if I bless on the fruits of the tree, Borei Pri Adama, I'm Yotzeh. Correct? Or if I bless on everything Shehakol, I'm Yotzeh. Comes Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, no, you're not Yotzeh. Why? If the Chachamim have instituted the brachot for every single food, their own bracha, and you said not like them, you're not Yotzeh. So that means according to Rabbi Yossi, if a person went ahead and blessed on an apple, Borei Peri Ha'adama, instead of blessing Borei Pri Ha'etz, according to Rabbi Yossi, Lo Yatsa, you don't fulfill your obligation. According to the Mishnah, according to the Tanna Kama, clearly you fulfill the obligation. Rabbi Yossi tells you don't fulfill your obligation. If you want that on the melon, instead of blessing Borei Pri Adama, you bless Borei Pri Ha'etz. I'm making it short. Lo Yatsa, same thing. If you want on wine and you bless on it, instead of saying Borei Pri Hagefen, you bless on it Shehakol Nieh B'dvaro, Lo Yatsa. Rabotai, the rule is very simple. If what the blessing the rabbis instituted on that particular item, you're not saying that blessing, anything else, if you're saying, you don't fulfill your obligation. That's why it comes to Kahat and explains to us that Rabbi Yossi in Talmud Yerushalmi says that he argues on our whole Mishnah. In order for you to be Yotzeh according to Rabbi Yossi, you gotta be able to say the correct berachot. Okay. Now I'm going to erase this because now we're going to move on to the next piece. Okay, I don't know why this is happening. Okay, 1 second. Okay, Now, let's move forward in the Kahati. He says like this. Aval, however, in the Talmud Bavli, what I just showed you, the brown book, Aval beTalmud Bavli, Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Shehakol, that the halacha is going to be like this. Ve'al kulam im amar Shehakol yata. That on everything, if you went there and you said Shehakol, you will fulfill your obligation. And what does the Kahati conclude? And he says, oh, 1 second. Ve'al kulam im amar Shehakol yata. Musuma gam al yain upad ki moshe be'er. It also goes back on wine and bread. If you said on wine and bread Shehakol, you fulfill your obligation. Ve'halacha kemoto. The halacha is going to be like Rabbi Yochanan, that if you went there and you said Shehakol bidvara on all of them, you are yotzeh. How much more so if you went ahead and you said borei pri adama, not borei pri adama. If you went ahead and you said borei pri adama on the fruits of the tree, also yotzeh. The only time Rabbi Yochanan is going to tell you that you're not yotzeh if you're blessing borei pri ha'etz on the fruits of the ground and on the vegetables. But now we have a problem. You have to understand like this. Rabotai, we're going into a little bit of in-depth learning in the Mishnah, which technically we should not be doing, but, because it's not a Gemara class, excuse me. But what can I do? The Kahati brings it down, so we have to explain it. Now you need to understand, if Rabbi Yossi holds that anytime you change the text, you don't fulfill your obligation, like I explained, and then comes Rabbi Yochanan says, no, even if you went there and you said the bracha on all of them, yatzah, like I explained also. And we said that this is the halakha. Halakha goes like Rabbi Yochanan. Now we have to understand, I have a problem now. Rabbi Yochanan, what are you going to do with this concept of changing the text? Because remember, Rabbi Yossi said that if you're going to change the text from what the Chachamim instituted, you're not yotzeh. So how is he going to understand? How is he going to understand Rabbi Yossi? How can I explain to you? How's Rabbi Yochanan going to learn Rabbi Yossi when he speaks about changing the text? According to Rabbi Yochanan, he's going to tell you that Rabbi Yossi will agree with him that as long as you're saying the brachot, even though they're different, you're going to be yotzeh. So if I'm going to be yotzeh, but it says clear that if you're changing the text like explained, you're not yotzeh. So basically, how can Rabbi Yochanan make sense of Rabbi Yossi's teaching when it comes to the concept of if you change the text from what the Chachamim had established? So let's see if I can do this, Rabotai. So watch this. Uladat Rabbi Yochanan, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, Ma shama Rabbi Yossi kol ha-mishaneh mimatbei shetav Chachamim b'berachot lo yitzah yidei chovata. This what Rabbi Yossi said, that anybody who's going to change the text in the blessing from what the Chachamim have instituted, that he does not fulfill his obligation. You know when that was? Hainu davka kishamar kama na'e padzo baruch hamakom shbara'ah. Let's write this down, Rabotai. I want to show you something. That is specifically if he said these words. Okay, I want to show you something, Rabotai. Very important halakha, by the way. Also very important concept. If a person says, Kama na'e pat zo, how beautiful is this bread? If I have a bread in front of me, and I say, how beautiful is this bread? Baruch, watch, I'm blessing Hashem. Bless hamakom is Hashem. Bless the place, which is Hashem, Shebara, that He created. It's a similar context in just saying the bracha b'rei pra'etz or hamotzach min ha'aretz. Rabotai, watch this. You know what Rabbi Yochanan is going to tell you? Rabbi Yochanan is going to tell like this. What did Rabbi Yossi mean when he said if anybody changes the text, he does not fulfill his obligation? What did he mean? If you literally change the text completely, if you said like this, if you would say it in English, you would say like literally, right? If you take, Rabotai, I put it to you like this. There is an argument, there's a debate. If a person takes a piece of bread and he says, how beautiful is this bread? Bless be Hashem, that He created it. You probably said already a bracha. So maybe now you can't go back and say how much lechem arch on that bread because you already said the bracha. That's why comes Rabbi Yochanan and he wants to explain to you. Do you know what Rabbi Yossi means over here? If you change the text, so therefore you're not going to be yotzeh. That's only if you really change the text from what Chachamim have instituted. Because the text of the Chachamim is Baruch, right? Ata, right? Rabbi Hashem Elokeinu melech olam. That's according to the Chachamim. It has to be this text. So comes Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is going to say, no. Don't say Rabbi Yossi is arguing in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi is agreeing with our Mishnah. So what do you mean if he's agreeing with our Mishnah, but he said clearly that anybody who changes the text, he's not yotzeh. You're right. You know what he meant? He meant like this. If you change the text from what the Chachamim have instituted, that means, according to what Rabbi Yochanan is saying now, that Rabbi Yossi will agree that if you went ahead and you said on everything, Shehakol b'dvoro, yatsa. If you said borei pri ha'adama on a fruit of the tree, yatsa. The only time we'll tell you not yotzeh is when you're going to say borei pri ha'etz on the vegetables or on the fruit of the ground. But Rabotai, Rabbi Yochanan is trying to make sense that Rabbi Yossi really is not arguing on our Mishnah. Okay? Let me read it for you inside. One more time. This is what Rabbi Yossi said. Anybody who's going to change the text that Chacham have instituted in the Berachot that he does not fulfill his obligation. Specifically when he said, how beautiful is this bread, blessed is Hashem that He created it. Or how beautiful is this fig. Baruch HaMakom Shibra. Same thing. Blessed is Hashem that He created it. Since this is the blessing that the Chacham have never instituted this kind of blessing. No, they instituted this kind of blessing. That's why with this you don't fulfill your obligation, because you can only do this because this is the text. Aval, however, im amar shehakol niyeh b'dvor. But if you said shehakol niyeh b'dvor even on bread or even on wine or on anything else by accident, shezo beracha shetiknuha hachamim. That's a blessing where the Chachamim have instituted it. I feel Rabbi Yossi moide sheyatsa yedei chovato. Even Rabbi Yossi is going to agree that you fulfill your obligation. Rabotai, beautiful learning, Rabotai. Okay. But however, he says, Rabbi Meir cholek al Rabbi Yossi bebaraita. Rabbi Meir argues on Rabbi Yossi in the Baraita. Now, we took care of Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're dealing with Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir argues on Rabbi Yossi in the Baraita. And he holds, even if a person goes ahead and he doesn't say that bracha that the Chachamim have instituted it, kigon, kama na'apat zo, how beautiful is this bread? Baruch HaMakom Shebara, blesses Hashem that He created it. Again, Makom literally means the place, meaning the place of Hashem. Baruch HaMakom Shebara, yatsa yedei chovoto. He fulfills obligation. Rabotai. Now that we know that according to Rabbi Yochanan, he wants to go ahead and he wants to revise. What does it mean? If a person changes the text, stop going on the bracha that you're saying different brachot for different foods, like we explained in the beginning. But rather it's going on this. So if this is the text, comes Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir tells you, I argue on Rabbi Yossi that even if a person said, Baruch HaMakom Shebara, he holds yatsa. Rabotai, listen to this one more time. That's why I told you before that there's the machloket. That's according to Rabbi Meir. Once you say this bracha, you could no longer say hamotzi lechem min haaretz because you already fulfilled your obligation. So one more time. Rabbi Meir cholek al Rabbi Yossi b'Baraita. Rabbi Meir argues on Rabbi Yossi in the Baraita. And he holds shafilu be'ota bracha, even in that bracha, shelo tikenuha hacham, where the Chacham did not institute it. Right? The Chacham never instituted such a bracha like this. Kegon kamunai patzo, right? Baruch HaMakom Shebara, yatsa yedei chovato. You fulfill your obligation. So Rabotai, we see over here that there's a three-way machloket. In the initial way, what we wanted to understand when Rabbi Yossi cholek al mishtatenu lo yatsa, that we were learning it that when you're saying the text of what the rabbis have instituted, but you are rearranging them for different brachot. For example, saying ha'adama on an apple, or ha'etz on a watermelon, or saying shehakol on wine or bread. Over there we thought initially that was what Rabbi Yossi is going ahead, and that's the way he wanted to learn and argue on our Mishnah. Came Rabbi Yochanan said, no, take it easy. Rabbi Yossi is not arguing on our Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi agrees with our Mishnah. Oh, if Rabbi Yochanan agrees with our Mishnah, so I don't understand. So why did he say if you change the text? What he meant was by saying that if you change the text, was not going on that if you switch up the barachot according, like we explained, like if you said hadama on an apple or ha'etz on a watermelon, not like that changing the text. We mentioned that if you really change the text completely from what the rabbis have instituted, if you went like this, then Rabbi Yossi is going to tell you you are not yotzeh. But if you went ahead and you said this bracha, not this bracha per se, but if you said Shehakol b'dvara on anything by mistake, we'll tell you yotzeh. If you said hadama on an apple, we'll tell you yotzeh, because that is the text that the rabbis have instituted. Also, what is meant by change the text? It's meant that when you change completely the text like this, comes Rabbi Meir, now we know this, comes Rabbi Meir says, no, I argue on you, Rabbi Yossi, that even if a person goes ahead and he changes the text from what the Chachamim have instituted, and he says a whole different new text, Rabbi Meir is going to tell you are still yotzeh. Okay, Rabotai, let's just do the Mishnah now, and with this we conclude Perek Vav Mishnah Bet. Berech ala pirot ha'elan borei pri ha'adama. If a person went ahead and he blessed on the fruits of the tree, borei pri ha'adama yatsa, like we saw. Ve'al pirot ha'arz, if you went ahead and you blessed on the fruits of the ground, borei pri ha'etz, lo yatsa. If you went and you blessed on the fruits of the ground, the blessing borei pri ha'etz, you don't fulfill your obligation. Al kulam, however, if on all of them, on the fruits of the ground, on the fruits of the tree, on the vegetables, on wine, on bread, on pastries, on all of them, Im amar shehakol niyeh b'dvaro, if you said shehakol niyeh b'dvaro, yatsa, you fulfill your obligation. Okay, Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen ve'amen.